As we know, the president wanting 1 trillion rand over a 5-year period. But we have to ask, as he goes into all these meetings, is business actually buying the idea of a new dawn? Like Nicolaus said, there was Ramaphosa at the time.
Yeah.
We all expected. But for us here, it doesn't really seem to be that we're winning when it comes to the economy. But business here and elsewhere, are they buying it?
Well, Veko, he has to really balance two issues. One of them, of course, is growth. The other is dealing with social inequality. President Ramaphosa really said in his State of the Nation address that the one will follow the other. So he is focusing really on growing the economy as well as bridging the divide between the rich and the poor. But credit ratings agencies, Moody's, issued a statement on Tuesday, Veka, saying it was concerned about the lack of clarity so far on land reform. So that may be something that President Ramaphosa addresses in this meeting later this afternoon. Let's very quickly focus on the growth numbers because there might be some questions about this, Veka. And what you're going to see there right at the end is the Q1 growth figures, minus 2.2%. And if you go back to 2014, Veka, we've had 5 quarters of negative growth out of 17. So it has been extremely patchy. If you are an investor, that would be an issue of concern. And let's focus specifically on a sector which has been problematic in South Africa, Veka, and that is manufacturing. We saw a tough start to last year, the sector dropping almost 4%. It did make something of a comeback in Q2, Q3 and Q4, Veka. You saw upwards of 3% growth in manufacturing, which of course is very useful when it comes to job creation. And the president has said jobs are crucial. But the latest numbers, Veka, coming out of the manufacturing sector, Q1 2018, dropping 6.4%. Not a good start to the year for this particular sector. Now, we mentioned social inequality, Veka, and we found an interesting stat which kind of tells the story of South Africa, perhaps tells the story of land reform. So this is from the General Household Survey, and what this looks at, Veka, is the proportion of South Africans who are living in households with 6 rooms or more. And you can see there the average for South Africa, 41%. But very much a racial bias. Take a look at the numbers for white South Africans. 81% of them live in homes with 6 rooms or more. Black South Africans, just 35%. Bear in mind, of course, we're not talking about 6 bedrooms. We're not talking about mansions. We're talking about bedrooms, kitchens, bathrooms, and so on. So that really just gives you a sense of where we are as a country, Veka. And in terms of education, this is a big issue as well. Remember, the president has said that he wants to focus on young people. This is a breakdown in terms of the student population, Veka. 69% Black African, 18% white South Africans. That would seem relatively close to the actual demographics in the country. But as we take a look at our next slide, Veka, this is going to tell you a very different story. So take a look at that. 18% of white South Africans between the ages of 15 and 24 are enrolled in universities. Just 3.4% of Black South Africans in that age group are enrolled in universities. So although the majority of students in our country are Black South Africans, in terms of the overall population, that number is relatively small. Hopefully, Ramaphosa's attempt to deal with the education problem, fee-free education, will help solve this. The question is, can he pitch that to investors later this afternoon?
And it seems, Michael, a lot hinging on the man himself and his image and what he takes and whether people believe him. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but we've noticed a marked sell-off in South African bonds that's been happening over the past 6 months or so. So what do we read into that? I mean, does that have anything to do with Ramaphosa? Will it have any implications or a reflection maybe of how he might be viewed when he goes into these big meetings and deals with the international community?
Well, Vika, analysts are telling us is that how it typically works is that foreign investors will try to borrow money cheaply in countries where the interest rates are low, for example, the United States, and then they'll pour that money into countries where the interest rates are high. What's happened between January and June this year is that interest rates in the United States have actually been rising. So there's been less of an incentive to throw that money into emerging markets like our own. So not necessarily a reflection on President Ramaphosa, but really just the logic of investing in emerging markets.
Okay, let's cross our fingers. Let's see if we can pull it off. Thank you very much, Michael Marillier, exploring government's push for new investment for the country.